I'm Andrew Gibbons. This is Rebecca Norton. Hello, Rebecca. Wave to us all. We're going through Nancy Kline's 10 components of a thinking environment. As can be seen, we're reaching number 3, which is equality. I've summarized on this slide as we are all thinking peers. Of course, Nancy goes into this in more depth. Rebecca, how would you summarize it in a few more words than equality, meaning we are all thinking peers?
Yeah, I like the other bit that she goes into a little bit more detail with this. So that she actually says it's about giving equal terms and attention and keeping agreements and boundaries. And I think that's also very much key in sort of meeting, knowing that you are going to have a turn, regardless of how many people in the room, does make it easier, I think. So you can relax a little bit. You don't have to be thinking, well, when can I jump in? When's a good point for me to interrupt or whatever? You know you're going to get a turn, and therefore you can relax and listen to other people rather than worrying about it as well. And the option with this as well, my understanding, so I was introduced to this when I was studying my teaching training, was that if you don't wish to speak, you don't have to, but you're given the opportunity, and even then you can just say I'd rather pass or whatever. So the option to engage is always there, and I think that's really, really important.
Big difference to most places I've seen in a group or, for instance, meetings context. And I suppose equality means no favoritism, no apparent or actual giving of more time, more apparent respect and fascination, as we said earlier, but sharing it out equally. And also diversity is something Nancy Kline looks at separately. We tend to cluster EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusivity. We're not doing that here. We're separating equality from diversity, which we'll look at separately. Equality is what you say. Irrespective of who you are, what role you are, or anything else, you have equal rights in this situation to think.
Yes, and also that about treating each other as thinking peers. So I like this as well. So something else that she goes into in the book is even in a hierarchy, people can be equal as thinkers. And I think that's really important, is if you have a manager in the room, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're thinking better or, you know, or on a different level. They're thinking, I think it sort of clears and levels out the platform, but in reality, does that really happen? I'm just wondering now whether I do some part-time work and my line manager is very, very good. And I feel that we are all equal as thinkers in that environment. And I think she's probably aware that it might hold people back, knowing that she is there with some of my other colleagues. So that there is an awareness there, and there's space given to us as workers to just sort of chat amongst ourselves without a manager present, if in certain occasions as well. But it is interesting. Does it alter the way you think just because of who's in the room?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. And I cut into you there in a nearly interrupted you sort of way. I think it's hard to shed the behavior to which you and others have become accustomed. To do so, and to do so dramatically, can cause people to question the validity, the authenticity of that. Oh, he's read a book. Oh, he's been on a course. Things go back to normal in a couple of weeks. This takes a lot of effort, and it takes conscious, deliberate effort, and it's not easy, and there'll be setbacks, and there'll be times you think, is it worth it? Well, it might not be. It might not be worth the effort. I'm not an absolutist on this. I'm not sort of Puritan that says we must always do this. I accept that this is too much for a lot of people, and that's a shame. But where it isn't, and where persistence can get you to a better place, surely it's worth going for.
Definitely. If you're not engaging all the people in the room, you're missing some really valuable knowledge and some really valuable skills. You're not tipping into everything, are you? I think, and this is where I think everybody has a role to play in this. So you have to be, if you're an employee, you have to be willing to have that courage to share your ideas. But as a manager, you have to be willing to acknowledge that some people might be feeling intimidated because you're in the room, but also the fact that you have workers in the room who have just as much insight and knowledge as you do as a manager. So it has to be buy-in from every party, I think.
I think this conflicts with a lot of managers who take the ludicrous, I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything I couldn't do myself. Because all that means is no one's capable of being better than you at anything. Well, that doesn't sound like a useful bunch of people to me. So I think in a managerial situation, someone who either knows their position to be or just intuitively does stuff that shows that they believe in the capability of the others and that they are at least equal to themselves and of each other, that's a positive environment. So yeah, I guess I'm thinking all the time, what's the likelihood of seeing this? And I suppose this is a bit more of a mechanism rather than a behavioral thing. This is something which can be used as a process. In this context, we will behave in this way. But that rule has got to be kept to.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's where the equality comes in terms of the procedures and the boundaries, isn't it? You know, that everybody is. And I suppose that's where it's useful to, you know, the circle time, if you ever come across circle time with kids and stuff, that everybody sits in a circle so nobody's head of the table, sort of thing. You know, simple things like that where there is no, you've already got rid of the hierarchy by everybody is sitting at the same level and there's no prime position within the room and things like that. So physically setting up the environment can be important as well.
Well, we'll talk about that because that's something else, but I'm already thinking about when I first became a district councillor and our leader of group welcomed we new councillors to the room we were in. We all knew him well because it's a close community. And he says, I've got the big chair. And sure enough, he had a big chair. So he said, this is my chair, it's the big chair in this room. And I thought, oh no. But yes, so physical environment, we'll talk about that. But equality is about equal shares, equal rights to thinking time, and the right to decline that if you feel that's what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah. But also believing that everybody has something to offer. You know, I think that's the thing, because sometimes you think, oh, well, you know, maybe they're only the lower, they're only a junior, they only started or whatever a few weeks ago. They've not really got the experience to it. So we'll sort of give them a few minutes to share something. But actually, I don't really think they can generate anything. So I can see that happening in some situations as well. We already assume we're not going to be able to bring anything to it, but surely that's why we have different members of staff in different roles, because they bring their own skills.
Well, I see the logic. I just don't often see the practice. You're right. Again, I'm trying to keep on track here, but new people have objective eyes. They see things for the first time, which people have been there 18 years, haven't seen for 17 years. So equality of thinking time, equality of status, and equality of opportunity to think.
Yes.